Yo guys, what's going on? Jubil Motovlog here, and welcome back to another video. And welcome back to a very special day. Today we're taking out the Ducati Streetfighter V4, so let's waste no more time. Let's get this baby started up and let's have a fantastic day in the seat of this Italian beast. So, you join me at Buttertubs Pass in the Yorkshire Dales. I've been on the V4 now for, I'd say, a good hour and a half, just to get used to it a little bit. Now, I know this video is a first ride, and I understand that you haven't seen the initial first ride, but remember guys, I'm coming from an MT-07 that has 70 horsepower. This has 208 horsepower, so I don't want to get on it straight away and start talking and not be used to it. So I've spent a little bit of time in the couple modes and having a little play around, and now I feel quite comfortable on it. Definitely feel comfortable enough to have a chat and motovlog to you guys. So here we are then, Ducati Streetfighter V4. First off, can we just take in the looks of this bike? It is absolutely stunning. Now, when this thing first was unveiled, I wasn't a massive fan of it. Until you see them in the flesh, you realise how much of an absolute piece of artwork these are. I remember first ever seeing it at the bike show at the NEC, and from then on, yeah. It's a pretty big privilege to ride this one today, so I want to thank the owner for letting me out on it for the day. We are going to head up to the Hartside Pass because I had the Ducati Streetfighter V4 for one day. Hartside Pass is definitely where I'm going to go. Nice smooth road, comfortable on these tyres, nice and twisty, you know, get a nice feel for how it corners and stuff. So we're heading up there today. But yeah, let's get into some specs then. So I want to put the specs on screen because I don't want to name them out, but I definitely know the basics. So obviously, suspension wise, you've got the O-rings at the front, the O-rings at the rear. This is the V4S. Exhaust system we're running it. We are running on a stock exhaust, but that is a very surprising exhaust note, and we'll have a little chat about that when we start getting going. A full ABS system on it, and obviously the V4 motor putting out 208 horsepower at 12,750 RPM, I believe. But styling wise, I don't know why this has pillion pegs, because I have no idea what nutcase pillion would sit on that. Front wings, absolutely love it. The dash, we'll talk a little bit about that, and then that lovely headlight. And if we turn it on, super bright headlights. If we can put it on high beam as well. It's on high beam. So yeah, let's waste no more time, boys and girls. Yeah, I don't let these tyres cool down because they are sports tyres, so I've got a little bit of heat in them for now. But let's get a little sound clip of this and let's get going. You'll be very surprised when we get going how much of a nice exhaust note this makes. Right then, let's go ride. So it's a very British day today, as you can probably see, which is always good for a first ride. You know, it's kind of a day with the V4, living with it. So this is what a general day in the UK looks like these days. So the roads are dry. I've been through a little bit of wetness, but the tyres were warm. So then we'll start with the ergonomics of the bike. I'm currently standing at 5'4", 5'4.5" on a good day. I cannot flat foot it, you know, it's kind of just on the tippy toes, so manoeuvring around's alright. As for weight, I'd definitely say the centre of gravity is a lot different to any other bike, and I think that's due to the fuel tank. The fuel tank's not here, it's actually underneath the seat, so it kind of moves that centre of gravity back, which when you first get on you can definitely tell. And I think as well that's to do with the V4 motor where it sits in the chassis. But yeah, as soon as you sit on this you can definitely tell it's not like a usual bike the way it sits. As for the ergonomics, like I said, I'm 5'4", kind of tiptoeing it. The foot pegs are kind of rear sets, kind of just normal foot pegs. Handlebars are nice and wide, so you kind of have a nice aggressive stance, but a comfortable one. You know, they're not clip-ons, they're handlebars. So, you know, you kind of have this upright position where your back's slightly arched, but I've only been on it a couple hours, and I'm not feeling any sort of discomfort yet, so we'll see how that goes on through the day. As I was saying with the engine and stuff, so you might be able to hear it on and off. There. And then you come off. So I am still actually on the throttle here, but as soon as you hit like, I think 3.5, you kind of hear that like growl coming. And you know, I'll notice that a lot with the bike. Through the different rev ranges, these different sounds. This is a hyper naked, and you know, they're notorious for hooligan machines, supermotos and wheeling everywhere, but this bike's designed really to keep the front end down. You'll notice from the way you're sitting, where the centre of gravity is, obviously the 4 front wings on it, and all the electronics on it. Like, this thing really does stick to the road. So power delivery then, let's talk a little bit about this V4 motor, and then we'll have a little break and we'll just have a little ride into the... I'll start giving you some thoughts as we're riding. So I've noticed straight away from the motor, I started off in the street mode. That pretty much has everything numbed down, you know, traction control right at the top, wheelie control, and yeah, it doesn't really feel like you're riding it, but for when they first get on it, you know, it's definitely a good mode to have it in, to get used to throwing the bike around and knowing the power where it comes in. But once the tyres were warm and the sun came out a little bit, I flipped it onto the sport mode. It's a faster mode, don't get me wrong, the power delivery is totally different, but I feel like the sport mode is more of the road mode. To me, the modes I've seen is street, sport and race, which is the track mode, which we won't be touching today because the weather's not fantastic, and that does turn absolutely everything off, which will make this bike an absolute pig. The street mode to me is really the rain mode, and then the sport mode is kind of the street mode to me. That's the way I come across it anyways. So yeah, power delivery in this sport mode's just crazy. It's got, I mean, torque wise, I think it's 90 foot-pounds of torque at 7,000 RPM, and it makes 70% of that torque down at like 3.5, which is where we are now. So we're in 3rd gear going up a hill. Cracking all around motor. Quick shifter, it does have a quick shifter, so it has a dynamic upshift and a downshift, so it does have an auto blipper. I'm a fan of the downward shifter unless you start riding a bit quicker. Just use the usual clutch. So the quick shifter on this is the OEM one, so it's the one that comes straight from the factory. It's not an aftermarket like Heel Tech one. Little hair there. Going up, I've noticed that so far I've had no problems with the shift whatsoever, even from 1st to 2nd. Now, to be honest, I know I shouldn't really be using a quick shifter from 1st to 2nd because there is a chance it may get stuck in neutral, but the ones I've done it are accidental. It's where I've just kind of been in 1st and flipped up. But I've still had no issues with that. It has done the shift smoothly. Obviously the higher the rev range, the smoother the shift. As for the dynamic downshifter, I've only noticed that really works smoothly, or if at all, in the higher RPMs. So I'm talking like 6,000-7,000 and above. Anything below that, you know, it doesn't even try. It just kind of jolts the bike forward a little bit and it doesn't shift down. But the reason I've come up on the route I'm up today and not gone up to like the coast or on these big A roads is I wanted to see, you know, how this bike would do with my type of riding. Or to be honest, most of a UK riders riding, you know, up in these national parks, up on these, you know, single track roads, how it does at these low RPMs. And so far it's just doing as well as the Yamaha. So we'll try to get out of this rain, and we'll have a little chat when we get onto some bigger open roads. So until then, wish me luck. Smooth on the way up. As for down, all the way down to first. Absolutely fantastic. So yeah, throttle obviously no heated grips. I'm not sure if it has cruise control, I'm not sure what this is. Again, in editing I'll have a look online, but can't see it. Then you've got the all-in steering damper, so you've got the all-in full suspension on this, steering damper front and rear. You've also got the electronic forks, obviously all your modes over here, we'll talk a little bit about in the future. Headlight on and off. And then as for the clutch, it's not a cable operated clutch, I don't think, it's a hydraulic one, which is a strange feeling. It's one of the first times I've ever used a hydraulic clutch. And then the throttle as well is a fly-by-wire throttle, no cable there, due to the modes that are on the bike. Which I remember having a fly-by-wire throttle on the 390, and you know, when I first ever got on it I didn't like it, and it was same with this. I got on this, and because the MT-07's a cable and you're very one-to-one, you feel very disconnected. But once you start getting into the higher power modes and you start getting a more responsive throttle, you know, kind of becomes a bit more used to it. But in the numb down power modes, like the street mode where it's like just dead flat, it's a strange feeling. Like I mentioned, sport mode for me, even in the rain, is probably one of the best modes. It seems to have that nice feeling. Even now I think it has wheelie control, it's on 1. Automatically it's set to 1 in this mode. And the front wheel still comes up in first and second, but then you get the lights on the dash and it slams it back down. If I can, when we get onto a straight, I'll try open it up a little bit so you can hear. I don't know what's going on inside that, you know, that V4 motor, but you get to 7,500 RPM, the tone of the motor changes, and it just absolutely pulls. Whether it's got like shift cams or something in it, I'm not too sure, but it is a special feeling, because it's just like someone puts a rocket up its backside and it goes. So I'm going to blow the speed out, so let's see if you can just hear it. Now, so it just kind of, it's like the motor's just opened up, and yeah, lovely sound. It's a nice feeling as well. It's kind of like the motor's breathing. It's like and then it just goes. Wow. First time I'm really riding on a suspension that's, you know, actually doing what it's meant to do. I've only ever ridden on a budget suspension, so to be riding on one that's smooth. Boys and girls, just sit back and enjoy. Power delivery in corners is just lovely. Everything on this bike just works. This is what was in mind when making this bike. These kind of roads, quick twisty roads, torquey. You can hear the motor changing as you start getting up into them higher RPMs. Try use the downshifter. Okay, nice. See how that downshifter goes. Engine braking's nice. I know you can play around with that bar. I really want to. light and flickable. Start taking it a tad easier now as we get to the top. I know that the rain's kicking in, so stick bike. Need I say any more? Well, you might recognise this from the Kiel to Forest trip. So the reason I've come up here is that road is spectacular, and to ride a bike with a full suspension that works, how can you not want to bring it up here? Love it, absolutely love it here. But I love this bike even more. I'm just going to carry on riding. So, slow traffic sort of stuff now. We're heading into a place now, coming back from, we're on the A65, and I know for a fact we're coming towards some roadworks, so I want to see how the bike does in slow moving traffic. So I put it back into the dulled down street mode. Yes, it's dulled down, but it makes that power delivery a lot easier in them first and second gears, something which I complained about earlier. Today's not exactly a warm day. I think the hottest it's got today, or I think the mildest it's got today, is about 14-15 degrees. I've felt the bike's heat between my legs maybe once or twice, and that's in slow moving traffic. But is it unbearable? I'm not too sure. In the little top corner of the dash it says a little low to high engine temperature. Max has seen it on today's 3 again when we were in that slow moving traffic. But as for on a hot day in slow moving traffic, you know, if you're on the, you know, the way to the coast and you get caught in a long line of traffic behind a tractor or something, I reckon this bike could get pretty hot pretty fast. In the dash, it's a nice display, nice and bright, digital revometer, everything's digital, the TFT display. As for the fuel gauge, you know, this, I'm on my 3rd tank as well now, by the way, 3 tanks in, and I've just topped over 200 miles. So as for fuel gauge, I don't think it has one. I can't find one anywhere, but it just tells you there's a little fuel light that comes on, the fuel lamp pops up, the same as an oil lamp. It tells you when you're on, and apparently there's about 20 to 30 miles left in the reserve. Display is nice, it tells you there exactly, you know, what gear you're in, speed, what mode you're in, all in the bottom right hand corner. If you want to you know, fine tune your modes, you've got your dynamic wheelie control, traction, and you can play around with all them if you want. And then in the bottom as well you've got like your degrees, air temperature, trip. So for such a small display there really is a lot going on. This is what I was saying, there's a little computer in this bike. You know, when you're on the throttle and you want to change, you change mode, it says close the throttle, there's no delay, you close the throttle, switches modes instantly. So super convenient, lovely bike to ride. But no, honestly, handling wise, this bike handles like an absolute dream, with the electronic suspension as well, constantly adjusting. You know, when you're on these slower roads it's nice and soft, soaking up them bumps, but as soon as you start winding it on a little bit, up into them twists, stiffens itself up, especially them front forks. It's really nice to see it adapting to the kind of riding you're doing. But yeah, my time with the lovely Ducati Streetfighter is coming to an end now. I am on my way back home. I'm about an hour away from dropping it back off with the owner. But when we get there, I'll show you a little bit around this dash, unless I can kind of sum it up real quickly. So in the dash, it's a nice display, nice. Alright then guys, so we're back at home now, and it's a couple days later since we rode the V4. So unfortunately we had to give it back a couple hours earlier than anticipated, so I didn't manage to get the last few couple shots that I wanted to get on the bike. So I thought instead we'll talk a little bit about some pros and some cons, sat down at home in the studio. So I understand if you want to click off this, but if you are a potential owner or wanting a V4, I'd stick around for this last part to show you, you know, the kind of con side of it and what I really didn't like on the day of riding it. So I covered about 250-260 miles on it, and the first one's definitely a con, and that is I filled it up 3 times. You may have heard me mention it in the video. So the first one is definitely the mileage, and pairing with that as well, there's no fuel gauge on it either. So mileage, I did try ride it as economically as possible, especially after I'd got over the initial first tank of riding it, you know, understanding the bike and understanding the torque and where the horsepower kicks in. So to be honest, you can really ride it around in 6th gear all day. Sometimes there wasn't an average, it was just a live miles per gallon counter, so it was saying sometimes 70, sometimes 30, so I couldn't really get a good gauge on what it was. But yeah, definitely the mileage and the fact there's no fuel gauge. A premium bike like that's quite disappointing. As well, the other one is the side stand. I don't know if you may have seen me mention it, I can't remember if I did, but the side stand is in such an awkward place for especially for short riders as well. So I'm tiptoeing the bike already. As I mentioned, I'm very short, 5'4", and to kind of hold the bike over onto the right side to hook your foot around, because it's got like a tiny little notch on it to try put your heel underneath to kick it up, and especially if you're on uneven terrain such as like pebbles and stuff, yeah, it's a bit of a recipe for disaster if you lose your footing. So another con as well that I found with it is probably the fact that, you know, for the money you get, having a look around it, I don't think I saw one carbon fibre part on it, not even like a cover or a fender or anything, just nothing carbon on it. And especially if you're spending that much money on a bike, we know how much, like, how prized carbon is in the biker community. Everybody loves it, and that was another thing the owner said as well, for, you know, for the price they paid for it. Quite disappointed there's no carbon fibre on it, but again, it is such a, you know, it's a very, very flawless bike. You may find these cons very picky, but they are stuff I do want to mention because it is an honest review of it. The last one as well is, again, for such a premium bike, I'm surprised it didn't have a keyless ignition. No issue with the key at all. But again, for the money, you'd think it had a keyless ignition with all the electronics it had on it, you know, the fuel cap and stuff. It's just a standard key. Other premium bikes like the, you know, the S1000 XR, I don't know if the new 1000 RR has it, but yeah, keyless ignition nowadays is again another thing that the security device, I guess, in, you know, with the data tag and all that kind of stuff. So I'm very surprised it didn't have one, but again, not a massive problem. Then the final one is obviously the price. A brand new Streetfighter V4S will set you back £20,205 from a dealer brand new. Yes, it's a hell of a lot of money, but again, it is a hell of a lot of bike, so it's completely subjective to you if you find this a pro or a con. If you ever ride the bike and you understand what's absolutely amazing on it and understanding all the components, the electronics, the build quality, kind of is a little bit of a bargain, because if you was to buy, you know, the electronic forks separately and all the, you know, the electronics package, the rear shock, obviously the engine, the quick shifter, the up and down, there is a hell of a lot in this package, so it's totally subjective how you want to take it, if it's too expensive, or if it really is quite a little bargain for what it is. Personally, I'm not too sure, but I understand why it's so expensive. Now I've ridden it and had a look around it, but you know, for a motorcycle it is a hell of a lot of money. But yeah, there we have it. It's pretty much my entire review, well, a day trip, a day living with the Ducati Streetfighter V4S, and let me tell you, it was a fantastic day. Now I'm not going to wamble on, because I'm pretty sure you'll have seen from the video how much I enjoyed it. So thank you very much for watching. Leave a like if you did enjoy it, it helps get the video noticed. I do have a few more in the pipeline for a few test rides like this, or a day with riding, and hopefully I'm going to try to get in touch with some manufacturers and, cross my fingers, hopefully try get some bikes for the future, because I'd love to get my hand, especially on the Triumph Trident. I'd love to have a go on that. But apart from that, guys, thank you very much for watching. Ride safe and stay safe. This has been Jim Little Motovloggins, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.